That's better. Damn kids. Hey, son. Watching on TV for a change? Is that my mom? Is that my mom?
Marty!
Hey, princess.
Hi, son.
Dad, what the hell happened? You throw your back out again?
Oh, I was out on the golf course and...
Dad, I told you to watch that backswing.
No, he was hit by a car. It just fell out of the sky. He could have been killed.
And I was 2 under par.
I don't know what this world is coming to. Marty, how was work?
Oh, Mom, I'm telling you, that big promotion is just around the corner. Anyway, I'm starving. Let's eat. Come on, son, let's go. It's dinner time. Dad, I'm watching these programs. Mister, we eat at the dinner table when your grandparents are here. Put your damn glasses on, huh? Dad, I can only watch 2 shows at once on these things. Yeah, you kids really got it rough. When I was your age, I wanted to watch 2 shows at once. I had to put 2 sets next to each other.
Jeffrey Weissman has been in many things, namely Back to the Future 2 and 3. I am very happy to have him on the podcast today. Jeffrey, thanks for coming, and I really appreciate you giving me your time today.
Great to be here, Derek.
Excellent. So there are so many Back to the Future things that we've talked about, you and I just connecting and talking. First, let me ask you, where'd you grow up?
At my house. I was born in Glendale, raised in L.A. As a kid, Pasadena, West Hollywood, Brentwood, played Del Rey. My folks moved a lot, and then we tried to get out of L.A. Because my mom's lungs couldn't take the smog, so we lived for a bit near the mouth of Yosemite, up in Coarsegold, and then up at Lake Tahoe, and then San Diego, and then back to LA and Santa Monica, where I went to junior high and high school. And then I left LA to get training when I was 18, up to San Francisco to go to the American Conservatory Theater.
Do you remember the first moment or memory where you were like, my God, if this is not my calling, then I have no idea what is?
I think it was, I've always wanted, as far as I can remember, to be an actor or performer. I was performing as a baby. My parents tell stories of me creating mayhem from the high chair. My sister and I, growing up, always were play acting in our room or acting out our rock and roll records. And I did some Parks and Rec theater when I was, probably 7 or 8 years old. Then in school, I started performing as part of my studies. Example, in history class, I would do a news report from whatever period we happened to be studying that week. And then I got on stage in a drama class in junior high when I was living in San Diego in about 1971, and recited some poetry. I did a dance as the rear end of a lion. Did the lead in a show called the the Timid Dragon, where I was the dragon and stole the show, and the older kids hated me. So I think in 71, in I guess that was 8th grade, I started getting on stage more, winning a talent show, singing "I Got You, Babe" with a girl, my girlfriend at the time, and got the bug real hard. I wanted to do it professionally, and my parents, who knew folk in the industry, absolutely did not want me in it. They wouldn't allow it. They knew too many actors who were always complaining about not working or whatever other troubles they had. So I just stayed in school doing shows in school, sometimes community theater, sometimes at university level. I'd be brought in to play the kid in shows. I remember doing Stop the World, I Want to Get Off with Joyce DeWitt.
Oh, nice.
Years before she got Three's Company. Anyway, as soon as I got out of high school, my parents couldn't tell me what to do. I joined a casting company that would basically hire people to be in crowd scenes. So I did a crowd scene at the station riot in a film called FM, in a scene with Martin Mull. And,
okay.
And I wanted to get my foot into some studios on some major lots, and I worked on The Rose and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and I Want to Hold Your Hand, in fact, directed by Robert Zemeckis, and the scene that I was in outside the Beatles hotel room. I'm a Ringo fan, and I remember Zemeckis for some reason couldn't handle directing the large crowd, so he brought in his friend, an up-and-coming director named Steven Spielberg, to direct that scene. Anyway, doing the background work is not really fulfilling for an actor who wants to play roles.
Right.
And I was told that I had talent by some very big name people, but that I wouldn't be taken seriously until I got some training on my resume.
Right.
And so I set my sights for West Coast training where I thought I could afford to, pay most of my bills and still go to school. And went to the American Conservatory Theater. And during my intermediate studies at San Francisco State, after doing my first year studies with ACT, I fell into an opportunity to screen test for a major motion picture.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into some of the entries in your filmography, so say if I want to be an actor, Jeffrey, I don't, because I'm not talented enough to be an actor. But say if I did, what could you tell me that no drama school, that no anything related to education and how to be an actor or any kind of method, what about the grind, what about the journey would I need to know before I even step one foot into beginning my foray into acting? What have you learned from your time, from your experience, from your path that would be the first thing you tell a somebody who's maybe an actor, wanting to be an actor? What would you say, Jeff?
Don't do it. No, there's, like I said in my long storytelling of my path as an actor, is to get training. You gotta train. I still train. It's a never-ending story. An actor who takes himself seriously is always training and is always networking and is always working on their craft. And it's like what Don Adams told my dad when I was a kid, and my dad asked him, get smart. What advice do you have for my son? And Don Adams said, Wally, tell him to forget about it. It's 10% talent and 90% pure luck.
Mm.
And luck is basically you creating the opportunities, you being prepared for opportunity when it comes. And that's really the equation for success. If you have your headshot, your resume, you have hopefully representation, you have your training, you have confidence, you have a monologue or two or three or some scenes ready to show casting directors or writers or people who are in places to recommend you to parts or to help cast you. It's very difficult. When I was coming up through Hollywood in the 80s, they used to say an overnight success takes about 20 years.
Wow. Yeah.
And nowadays, I mentor, I teach, I have a lot of friends that I help and consult with, and you can cut that overnight success down to 10 or 5 years if you're very aggressive and you're very focused. I've seen it happen. I've had kids do it. But once again, they're driven. Their hearts are into it. I usually open any class that I teach with, if you're looking to have success for the money or to be famous, don't. That's the wrong reason. You're here to learn your craft, to be a storyteller. You're a cog in a big wheel. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
And you can't count on making a living. I am considered a successful actor. I'm sometimes a star or a celebrity, and I can't afford a lot of the time to pay my bills.
Right.
If you look at the Screen Actors Guild membership, I think it's less than 10% make more than $10,000 a year.
Wow.
So, as an actor to another actor, I would recommend any number of techniques to get your feet in the water. There are some amazing, very successful, proven techniques out there, but they don't all work for every actor. Now, you'll find some acting coaches who say this is the only way, and you can bang your head against the wall and not resonate with it. It may not generate the emotional state of the character that you need, or the openness to the experiences that you're having as the character in the story. That's why I always recommend exposing yourself to different techniques, from Meisner's repetition and fantasy charging and working with the text, to the Strasbergian early Stanislavski-based emotional recall or sensory recall, the relaxation techniques. There's wonderful techniques in or exercises in the different techniques that may work for you, and you can use bits and pieces of whatever works for you. I don't believe one true path, and that takes a while to get into workshops. It's very expensive generally, though with the advent of the internet and technology, you can expose yourself to Stella Adler or Marsalis or Meisner, the various acting gurus. There may be some Jeff Corey. These different great acting gurus are often their workshops or segments of their espousing their techniques are available on YouTube. I love this one video I share with all my students of Bryan Cranston giving his advice on auditioning. It's fantastic. It's right there on YouTube. And it is basically in a nutshell that when he discovered that he wasn't going in to perform for people or try to apply for a job or anything, he just was going in to demonstrate that he could do it. He just wanted to go in, show that he's honed his craft. He knows what he's doing, be easy about it, not to someone who's needy in any way, and then get out and forget about it. And he said when he and I'm paraphrasing, but when he grasped that equation, he never looked back, and it's been working ever since.
Yeah. And you have some pretty interesting. You have many interesting entries in your filmography. I did want to start with this though. So let me ask you, Jeffrey. We're going to get to 2 and 3, but when it comes to Back to the Future 1, did you ever watch the first one? I mean, was it ever even on your radar, right? That like you're going to be a big part of this franchise after 1 and 2 and 3 moving forward. Like, did you? I mean, it's kind of surreal to look back. I guess it's more of a hindsight question, but it's pretty impressive that you are a big part of it. But did you ever, in your wildest dreams, think you'd be a part of it?
Yeah. Well, in 1985. When Back to the Future 1 came out, I was working. I had just done a Western with Clint Eastwood.
Pale Rider, right?
Called Pale Rider.
Yeah.
And, before I was so proud of my work in that, I even climbed up on a billboard on the Sunset Strip.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I was very excited. I had, co-starred in some other films already, but doing a Western with Clint was really a thrill. And I wanted to see, let's see if I can show you a couple Pale Rider shots. Sorry about that.
Good. Let's leave it. Let's start with Pale Rider, then we'll go into Back to the Future because Pale Rider was on my list. I mean, that's a phenomenal movie.
So can you see the Pale Rider shot here?
Yeah.
Me as Teddy Conway there.
Yeah.
It was really fun to create this simpleton character. I got permission from Clint to try some things out. My character would get so excited in different scenes, his feet would go out from under him and he'd fall on his ass. And Clint, never complained. He thought it looked funny, but none of them stayed in the film, which is too bad because it's a very serious film. There's not much comedy, and I think to really get an emotional state with the audience, you get them laughing, and then they'll cry.
Yeah.
Well, so I wanted to see what the competition was for Pale Rider in 1985, and the main competition was this film with Chris Lloyd and Michael J. Fox, Back to the Future.
Mm.
And so I went as soon as I could, when it opened, and it was released twice, I think, that summer. I went to see it, and there was Crispin Glover, who I had worked with in 1983 on a film at the American Film Institute, and I liked his style, and he was a nice guy, and I got his phone number, and I immediately called him. I said, you were fantastic. You knocked it out of the park. And, I was actually proud of him because I knew him, and we were all trying to break into big films at that time. And, it was cool to be part of the highest grossing Western of the 1980s. The Pale Rider was.
Right.
Back to the Future was the highest grossing film of the year of 1985. So naturally I knew about the film, but, I never dreamed that I would be a part of any sequels.
Yeah. So let me ask you about Pale Rider, right? So when I think of Pale Rider, you're right. I mean, iconic movie, certainly of the 80s. John Russell and Billy Drago were two of the most frightening people. I mean, I think I was genuinely Jeffrey frightened when I saw Pale Rider. Like, I don't want to say like a horror movie frightened, but like genuinely, like these guys, they're not like a character of somebody. These are, I feel like, were real people. Like, I was frightened, especially of those two.
Well, Billy Drago was, he came in. I'd already been shooting on location in Ketchum, Sun Valley, Idaho, for a couple weeks, and Billy and J.D. Johnston and S.A. Griffin and Robert, and Stockburn, John Russell, they all came in after I'd already been shooting for a couple weeks. And I remember we were riding out. There was an hour plus ride from our hotel out to the location where Stockburn and his deputies, make Daddy dance.
Yep.
And it was kind of eerie because John Hexum had the day before played with his gun on set on the TV show he was on, and even though it was a blank, it went off and the wad had lodged in his brain, and he was still alive, but I think he was brain dead. And all these guys were carrying their guns, and like everyone was like, "We're not going to play with these." Everyone had been. I remember right after they had flown in, a blizzard set in, and production was closed down for 3 days.
Right.
So we got to know each other very quickly. Trivia Pursuit was very popular, and partying, and everyone was sweet as can be. Billy and JD and S.A. Robert. They were all really very nice guys. And I knew J.D. Johnston from working on Twilight Zone movie 4 years before, or 2 years before, and he was a party animal, and Clint was very generous with the per diem, and so there was a lot of celebration, being snowed in, and my one really kind of intimate breakfast I had with John Russell, his, and you're right, his voice, he's got this deep, rich, resonant voice.
Yeah.
And it was a little intimidating, and he would tell me about his gun collection and stuff, and I thought, oh boy. But he was really a gentleman. And I wish, that back then in '84, that we had the internet, because I didn't know of John Russell's legacy of fantastic television shows and movies and such that he had been in. And I knew somewhat of Carrie Snodgrass because we had mutual friends, and I knew about her out of the gate performance in Diary of a Mad Housewife being nominated for an Academy Award. And because we had mutual friends, I got very close to Carrie very quickly. I kept her kind of calm, kept her from quitting the film a few times because she saw her character as much more aggressive and protective of Clint's ghost character, and her daughter, Sidney played in the film. And she would butt heads with Clint and Michael Moriarty because she wanted to do physical things like hold the horse back from Hull Barrett going to town, or these different things that they would say, no, don't want you to do that or whatever, and that would piss her off. And she'd get all wound up, and at the end of the day, I'd get a pitcher of strawberry margaritas and get her relaxed and just talk it out. And Carrie, this is your return to feature films after being on tour with Neil Young for 10 years. You're overreacting. Just calm, right with these. It's good. You're doing a fantastic job. And she would come around.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that Michael Moriarty left the film for a few days. That first scene that he goes to town and gets into the fight with the toughs there that are picking on him. I think during a rehearsal or one of the takes, one of the actors was messing around, didn't stick to the choreography, and Michael ended up breaking these 3 fingers.
Oh my gosh.
And he was composing a symphony he had been commissioned to do, and now he was like at a loss. I got to do it on a piano with one hand, and I'm out on location without a piano. He left. And it took Clint a few days to figure out, a melodeon, a mouth organ that he could play with one hand or something, and still compose in his dressing room. And he had a very big heart. I remember Michael always, every conversation we had, he'd always end it with, "God bless you, Jeffrey." He was a very sweet man. But if you look at the footage of him, of Hull Barrett, his character coming back from town after that fight early in the film, this hand is in a cast. And it's modern, and I can't believe that Clint left it in, but the way the editor shot it, or cut it rather, you don't notice it.
Right.
I mean, now that I tell you, go back and look, and you'll see it, and you go, "Oh wow, he doesn't hide that at all." Another part that I think is fascinating, that the editors did such a knockout job, was in the scene where Spider, Doug McGrath as Spider, my daddy, doing the dance and getting shot. That scene took us 3 days to shoot.
Yeah.
And there's
and I told you, good. I think Goodfellas stole that, because Goodfellas had the scene where Joe Pesci, is basically messing with Spider, and he's being rude to him, make him dance, and eventually shoots him. Boy, is that right out of Pale Rider. I mean, that's just.
It seemed like it, yeah. Well, because it took us 3 days to shoot, and the weather was different every day. You might notice, if next time you watch it, like when Brother and I are at the Mercantile.
Oh, look at that!
Watching Daddy get shot. We're in a blizzard, and when you look at Daddy, drinking and calling out the deputies in Stockburn, he's in sunlight. He's not in the blizzard.
Right.
And then on the third day, and every time, Doug would get shot, he'd have to get completely re-wardrobe. And that's why the days went so long. And it was also with the wind chill, it was 10 below zero. And so on the third day, all the snow had melted, so Clint had to bring in the oil-based fake snow. And when Brother and I got to Daddy's dead body, as you can see in this shot, we're crying over his body, and we're in this fake snow that was very slippery. I remember Chuck hit my mark, and I went to his mark and almost kicked poor Doug in the head. slipping. And then when Blankenship, Richard Hamilton playing the mercantile man, comes to collect the boys out of the snow is picked up in chunks. And and the wind is blowing these chunks of snow. It doesn't act like that in real life. But the editor does it so beautifully, you don't notice that there's blizzard, sunlight, fake snow, any of that stuff. With these quick cuts. The editor was excellent.
Yeah, Jeffrey, going back to some of what you said. So I am a gun owner. I own several. I mean, a lot of it goes back to my dad used to be a police officer, and I go to the range and I'm trained. It's amazing to me, you know, we've heard about Alec Baldwin, and you mentioned the Blanks story earlier. It's amazing how many people still, like, gun safety is like, it's such a vital part. And it sounds like on set, people like took it seriously from what you're saying. It's just amazing to me how accidents still can happen because
I have done every kind of job as an actor, waiting to get work, from valet parking to waitering and cooking. And I was a security officer for a while. And I was certified to carry a 357 and did very well on my test day. I remember my boss coming and said, "You got the second highest score than anyone on the range that day." I was like, "Thanks." I still don't want to carry a gun because I'd always hear stories of the security guard down at the hot dog place on San Vicente and La Cienega. The place got robbed at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning, and that guard who'd never cleaned his gun went for his gun, shot it, and it blew up.
Yeah,
in his face. And I was like, I don't really want to carry a gun.
But Jeffrey, even more to your point, you mentioned blanks, right? So like people say, "Oh, it's a blank, nothing can come out of it." Well, that's not true. That's just simply not true. Blanks are blanks within a certain range are, as you know, you just talked about it, can be deadly, and that's, to me, that's crazy. You have to treat it like every.
I do a lot of living history. I play Mark Twain. I play an old medicine man. I have a medicine show. I have a lot of events that I'll direct or cast or coach on. And we have, example, for 5 years, I directed a show where we recreated the squatters' riot of 1851 in Sacramento. 6 blocks from the actual event took place. And every before performance, we would check the guns. We would go through gun safety. There's always a qualified safety person on any set, on any living history event. Of course, now it's almost politically incorrect to do gun battles because of all the shootings that are out of control in our culture. Yeah. So it's once again, I think a stupid thing for any producer director not to hire gun safety people, coordinator.
The armor, they call it the armor, right? A gun armorer that comes on set.
An armor, right? and a good armor shows the actor the gun. Yeah. Shows that the chamber's empty, and then says, "I'm going to put these in here, the blanks in," closing it. There's the safety, gives them the proper handling training. Even though most actors who have a lot of experience know that stuff, it's always important to revisit it, keep it fresh. Hours on shooting sets, and I don't know that the layman out there knows that shoots go on long hours. Production is often under a lot of pressure to get something done within a certain amount of time and a certain budget. And often a director or producer want to make the studio happy or their budget happy or what have you, and they'll push. And often that scene with the weapons or the scene where someone could get hurt is pushed to the end of the day because they know, oh, if the actor gets injured, well, at least we got it in the can, which is kind of heartless. And so I tell actors to protect themselves. If there's a scene that's going to be risky, make sure that there's a fight choreographer, a fight coordinator, an agreed upon activity that has any fighting in it. It's got to be choreographed like a dance. It has to be agreed upon, like stunts. And it can't be at the end of the day when you're tired. You've already been shooting 10, 12. On Back to the Future 2, I remember we had 19, 21, and 26-hour long days, all within the same week.
Yeah. And earlier, that's crazy. And you mentioned earlier you're meeting Crispin Glover. Is he as quirky as he seems off camera? Like on camera, obviously we know the quirkiness. He's a little zany. Is he that guy in real life, Jeffrey?
When I first met him, I thought he was a very nice guy, and I liked his acting. I thought it was compelling. It was really great because he had a nice sense of rhythm and an awkwardness, yet he still remained cool. Right.
That's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
And then, of course, when I was up for being his photo double, I called him. I said, remember me, Crispin? Say a good word for me. I need the work. I need to meet my medical because my second son was about to be born. And during the shoot, Michael's wife, Tom Wilson's wife, my wife, they all gave birth to baby boys within 2 weeks of each other.
Wow.
As if we didn't have enough going on.
Right. And I think most people don't realize, I'm going to say many, I don't want to say most. I say many people don't realize that they did change George McFly's in 2 and 3, right? So Crispin has 1, you have 2 and 3.
Well, Crispin and I kind of share 2.
Yes, you share 2. You are right. You're right. Yes.
We were trying to get away with not having him. The whole reason that they first approached me to be his photo double stand-in is because they were still in negotiations, obviously, and didn't know whether they had him or not. And I didn't know. I was in the dark, thinking that they obviously needed George in several places at the same time, because I was first sent in after auditioning, meeting with ADs, and then sent to a casting. I was sent to have fittings for appliances for prosthetic makeups based on his life mask. So I'm like, I guess they need George in multiple places. And I even did a screen test in the young George makeup for Bob Z and Dean Cundy. And things sort of became apparent at that when Bob Z asked Dean Cundy, the cinematographer, what do you think, Dean? And Dean said, Bob, I think we got Crispin without the trouble. And then sure enough, shortly thereafter, Ken Chase, the makeup designer, said, Crispin's out, you're going to be George.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? I couldn't fathom how they could do it without him because he did such a great knockout job. And then, of course, little did I know that he was holding out for $1 million and script approval. And I don't think they were going to give him script approval. His star was rising, so I thought maybe they'd come close to his offer of $1 million. But as we went on, I'd hear more and more stories about how much trouble he caused on the first film. In fact, one of the urban legends, people think, George is upside down. You can see up here where is it?
Yeah, there you are. Yeah.
George is hung upside down in the Ortho-Lab in 2015 because they wanted to obscure that it was a different actor. Well, that's not the case. That was always in the script, as far as I can tell, in my copy of Paradox, which is Back to the Future 2 and 3 in the same script. George is in the Ortho-Lab, and there are about 4 or more different versions in the script. In one of the versions, Marty is in the Ortho-Lab hanging upside down. His back went out while playing squash, I think. Anyway, what had happened apparently on the first film, I've heard the Bobs say that Crispin would be so into his character that he would, and the moment, that he would underhit or overshoot his marks on the floor for camera. Actors have to have the peripheral and see the marks, rehearse hitting those marks, so they're in frame and in focus.
Right.
And he would often over or undershoot it, and they thought, well, if we have him in this device hanging him upside down on a track, we can control his movements.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you the reason George is upside down is not because it's a different actor. It was always meant for Crispin. In fact, while we were shooting, one of the crew came over and said, all this torture was meant for Crispin. I was like, oh boy.
I never got that impression, Jeffrey, that they're. I think the way they treated you early on was quirky. But before I get to that, you talked about what, and for those meeting you for the first time or hearing about this story for the first time,
Hello.
like they don't know the idea that he wanted $1 million, which I don't think was unfair. I think that was a fair ask. But where I think he sank himself was his potential behavior in the first thing, but then asking for script approval, I thought was the Titanic of his decision making. I thought that was probably.
It's interesting because about 12 years ago or so, he kind of came out publicly with the not agreeing with the ending that success, money equals happiness, and I was like, oh, that's a nice spin, and he may have at the time felt that and wanted, because of that, the script approval. But once again, the Bobs were a team, and they weren't going to not change.
Jeffrey, when you say the Bobs, for those listening, you're talking Bob Zemeckis and
Bob Gale.
Bob Gale. Yeah.
They were the writing team, and
Correct.
Bob Gale was producer, and Zemeckis was director writer. And I don't think they were going to change the script that they'd already sold and agreed to for shooting and been in pre-production.
Right.
To accommodate an actor's wishes. Now, Crispin Starr was up and coming. He was doing brilliant work in River's Edge and other films and such. But I don't think he had the clout that he thought he had at the time. And, he does life art, his whole thing on Letterman and his various other quirky things that he does, with his films, is great because he's listening to his muse and is following his artistic needs. But Hollywood doesn't really have patience, at least at that time, for anyone trying to do that. And I think he's found his way now. He's got a lot of great projects, a lot of great directors that want to work with him. And that's lovely. And I would hope, I get more of that myself now that I'm not so obscure. And as you said, I still see about 30% whenever there's a post on one of the nostalgic pages on social media, and there's these horrible memes that try to stir up trouble. George wasn't Crispin in 2 and 3, or Leah badmouthed Jeffrey, or whatever, which is all kind of bullshit. But nonetheless, a lot of the responses that I see are people saying, oh, I didn't know there was a different George, which was basically, I think, the producer's desire, that people didn't know, because you're doing a time travel story and you don't want people to say, well, that's completely wrong. That doesn't look like the person from the first film.
Right.
So they needed him. So they were stuck between a rock and a hard place. And he knew that. And though I assumed that they had his permission for the makeups, for the appliances that I wore, especially as young George, you could tell from the profile that it's based on his life mask, whereas straight on, it doesn't look so much like me. If you bear with me for a second here,
yep,
you'll see this shot where we're recreating the kiss in the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. The profile really looks like Mr. Glover.
Oh my God! Hold on, don't get rid of that yet. Oh my God! Yeah. Oh my God! I never even noticed how. I mean, I know it was accurate, but Jesus.
And then the full. Let's see if I have one of these open.
Oh my God!
The full forward one, or here's one that is of the recreating of the fight with Biff out in the parking lot. You can see the full face forward. It doesn't look so much like a real person's face.
Yeah.
Or it's obviously different. And that's why a lot of my work as 17-year-old George is in the background.
Right.
But we had to recreate those scenes from the perspective of Marty, number 2, in Principal Strickland's office, hunting down.
Jeffrey, don't get rid of that. I want to ask you a question about this picture. So, what is the height differential officially between you and Glover? How tall, if you don't mind me asking, how tall are you versus how tall is he?
I'm 5'9.5". He's probably about 6 feet, maybe.
I thought he was taller than that. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Look it up. Look it up.
Okay.
He doesn't tell me anything. But once again, the professionalism on that set, the cast and crew were just hard working. Everyone adored being on those sets working, and it was a thrill for me. I pinched myself.
Oh, that's a very cool picture. Oh, that's very cool.
And I think either I had just gotten out of makeup or I was just reporting to work. I see. We're at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance here. So maybe I was just reporting to work. I wore overalls, had probably come from my work at Universal Studios where I played Stan Laurel at the time.
How kind is she? How kind is Leah Thompson?
How kind is Leah?
Yeah.
She's a sweetie.
Yeah.
There's me as Stanley Laurel at Universal. If anyone went to Universal between 1987 and 2001 and had your picture with Stanley Laurel, it might have been me.
See, I had heard that that she and was it Zemeckis, they kept calling you Crispin. I don't know if they were doing that to be smartasses or I don't know if that was true or if that was just internet lore.
I have a theory about that. And of course, that's one of those things where some researcher nitpicked an interview I was in right as I was learning that I had been sort of blacklisted because it came out that I helped Crispin get his $750,000 settlement.
Okay.
But what can I say? Leah's a sweetheart. There's many wonderful things. Let's see if I can show you a couple of shots where we're at different events.
Jeffrey, I have to, for most people, for me, when they talk about the first Back to the Future, for me, it's George McFly that seals the show. I love Marty. I love Doc. The wonderful actors. But to me, I thought Crispin Glover stole the show in the first one. A lot of pressure following him up, you think? For you? Was it a lot of pressure? Well, that's a nice picture, too.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the meme about and the stories about me being called Crispin while we were first week of shooting, I think it was because everyone was expecting him to be there.
Right.
And I remember Mike Fox seeing the makeup and saying, "Oh, Crispin ain't gonna like this," and Zemeckis calling action, he would say, "Crispin," and I had to go over to him and I said, "I'm Jeffrey. This is awkward."
It could have been out of habit. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was out of habit, and I know I remember when I spent a couple hours just hanging with Billy Zane in the trailer. He expressed his theory that he and Leah, that Crispin and Leah got very tight, and that she fell in love with him while they were rehearsing and working together because he was so compelling as an actor, and she was a sweet young thing then. They had rehearsed together painting, and Crispin tried to make it part of the set at one point and threw a fit when he couldn't get that his way. But nonetheless. And when I was playing Stanley on the tour, Leah brought her mom up once and introduced me as the actor who played Crispin.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh God! So I had said that in an interview because it made me uncomfortable at the time. But that was in 1991, 92, somewhere in there, and that interview had been cherry picked and has come to life as a meme. And I'm like, my God, Leah and I have been good friends since at least during production we never had any tension, and then we did a cast reunion in 2008 at the Hollywood show, and she was very cordial and friendly then, and then we've done many cast reunions now for
Comic-Cons. Jeffrey, I just wish they weren't so weird about it. Like, it just got so awkward, like with Crispin asking what he wanted. And I felt you kind of took a lot of the shrapnel, the after effects of it. I
was the man in the middle. It was really unfortunate.
But why not just say, okay, you know what? Things didn't work out with Crispin. We have our guy. Jeffrey's a great actor. He's going to do a great job. Instead, they kind of limit your tours. They limit your self-promotion. I feel like they took an awkward situation and made it more awkward, I feel like.
Well, I was also afraid. I was full of fear, and I think I stepped into a bear trap because I was friends with Crispin, and here he was being done wrong. Universal always paid the licensing for the use of me as Stanley Laurel or Charlie Chaplin or Groucho Marx, characters I played on the tour. I had figured they had secured the licensing for the use of his life mask. When I learned that they did not, I was furious. Also, when I learned that he was asking for $1 million, it was Spielberg who told me that in a very kind of snide way. I was in a body cast to do the spinning for the pizza scene. And Spielberg came up and snidely under his breath said, "So I see you got your $1 million, Crispin, after all," or whatever. And, and that was pretty upsetting.
Ooh.
So naturally, I felt bad for Crispin, and I shared my photos when I finally got them, and my stories, and I was deposed for 17 hours during his court case, and it finally came out, that they were kind of doing an underhanded thing. They thought, "Oh, we own the character; we can do what we want." Well, no, you've used someone else's likeness to make a lot of money, and you already made a huge amount of money in '85 from the first film. The sequels are going to do well. Give a fair share. But the greed, whatever was driving them, and I was in the middle of all that. And I unfortunately learned later on that I'd been blacklisted and had the plug pulled on promotional events, and casting on the studio lot had specifically not requested me. I have a lot of witnesses to this stuff, and it really hurt. Turned my life around. It took the rug out from me as an actor. It's like one of the nightmares you'd ever hear is, "Oh, you've been blacklisted." But
to your credit, before the blacklist, to your credit, many people don't know they changed George McFly's, which I feel like is a credit to your acting ability. Like, I feel like, you took over an iconic role, which not many people could do. Like, I mean, I couldn't come in Empire Strikes Back looking like Luke Skywalker and pull that off. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's hard to do. So I feel like, yes, you're caught in the middle. It was a terrible situation, but the positives are you were great. You did a wonderful job, and you are part of the maybe best franchise, top 3 for sure, in the last 50 years, whatever. And pick a number. So that's kind of a good thing.
And I agree with you. I pinch myself that I was a part of that, and I get to put my arm around Mike Fox and feel like he's a buddy.
Yeah, he seems like a really, really good guy, Jeffrey.
He really is. It is heartbreaking to see the ravages of PD on him. That photo that I just showed was from our first cast reunion in 2008. And it was the first time that Chris and Leah and Mark and Francis and Claudia and I had seen Mike, I think, since shooting, and seeing the effects of the PD on his physical self. I mean, his brain and his wit and his wonderful sense of humor is all still there. But the pain was driving his body. At times he had to physically walk because the pain was driving him to walk away. I noticed that, and it was heartbreaking for us all. We cried. Mm-hmm. But then, moments later, we were like, Mike, it's time to go in and meet these fans. There were, over 500 fans in this little lobby area. He came unannounced, and we said, "They're all yours." And we all went to lunch, and he was like, "What?" It was a very funny moment.
Yeah, it's insane because at Comic Cons, I see him, I see Tom, I see Chris. Their lines. I mean, I was in Philadelphia. Michael J. Fox's line had to have been a mile long, and I'm not exaggerating. Yeah. It was insane for all 3 days. Like, it was insane. I mean, what do you think it is, Jeffrey, about? I know he's beloved. What do you think it is about him and this franchise that really just gets to people? I've said this before. It puts this trilogy puts their hand around the heart, and it just never lets go. I feel like here we are in 2023, and I was 11 or 12 when I first saw it. I can't let go of it. Like, that's a sign of a great motion picture, right?
It is. The as you know, the Bobs were shopping that script around and were rejected by every studio
That's
for
unbelievable. That's
for,
unbelievable.
many years, and just because of the popularity of Romancing the Stone, what else do you have? Well, I got that time travel thing. Let's do it. And then they had 8 weeks almost with Eric Stoltz to hone. And I have the screen tests and makeup tests for Crispin and Tom that they gave me to study, and Leah. And in those, you see that they've been rehearsing and improvising in those characters for many weeks. So they honed the characters. By the time Mike Fox came available and came on the set, they were ready to go. He was walking in a ready-made environment, immersed in this wonderful, fun script, and it's of course it's beloved not only from what you got in the first film, but the adventure continues in the sequels. And some people prefer the third one. Some people love the second one. Some hate the second one. I personally love the first one, and it's got a lot of elements that you don't see often in films these days, of an older gentleman and a young kid, as dear friends, and
genuine friendship. Yes, dear friends, genuine
a lot
friendship.
of heart.
Yep.
And that is something that people really want. There's almost a loss of innocence that projects have, and so the people, wherever we go around the world, Harry Waters Jr. and Don Fuller, Mary Goldie Wilson and Chuck Marvin Berry were just entertaining. It looked like 10,000 people in Buenos Aires, Argentina, just last weekend.
Wow.
They're beloved around the world, and
Harry Waters has been on the show before. I told you, I think.
Isn't he a sweetheart?
Oh, great man.
So one of the highlights for me in 2015, I think it was the spring of 2015, I had already done a few shows over in England for the owner of the London Film and Comic Con, and he had brought some of the doctors to the Gallifrey One, the Doctor Who show in Los Angeles. And I was there promoting a cruise to raise money for Parkinson's. And he saw me and said, "Jeffrey, we love having you at our show. How can I get a cast reunion with Tom and Michael?" And I said, "Well, I'll write them both and tell them how well you treated me." Tom he's had distanced himself for like 15 years. He didn't want to have much to do with Back to the Future. It may have been because he didn't get the money he thought he was worth, or he just wanted to distance himself from Biff, because everywhere he went, he was, "Hey, Biff," and probably got tired of that. And
Jeffrey, there's a clip, adding to what you're saying, there's a clip of him. He's singing online. I can't tell if he's genuinely frustrated with the thing of Biff and Back to the Future, if it's like a dry sarcasm where he's kind of angry, or he's just being silly, because he seems like a really good guy. But like, I don't know. Like, sometimes I don't know if he's like William Shatner kind of, I feel like at times hates his role in Star Trek. I really feel like but I don't know. I feel like Tom sometimes
Tom is
frustrated with it. A little frustrated.
Tom is a wonderful spirit. He's a really great guy, and once again, he's part of that controversy. He was very close with Crispin. He and Crispin were on top of the world, starring in the major motion picture, the highest grossing one of '85. And here I'm coming in. Where's his buddy? But he was great to work with. He was very friendly. He's been friendly over the years, and I think he loves what he did. His work is outstanding, especially in Part 3.
Oh, he's and Part 3, Jeffrey. This is what I want to tell you. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting. I keep getting these. Part 3 has picked up the most steam since the releases. I feel like that's the one that has picked up the most love. Like, people love 1, people love 2. I thought 3 was maybe lukewarm, but people love it just as much. I feel like just as much as the other ones. Oh, how cool is this?
So I told the owner of this show, you should tell Michael you'll give as much money as you're going to give him for his appearance fee to his charity. They ended up getting a guitar for all of us, the 11 cast members that were there at this reunion, to sign that, and they auctioned it off for a nice chunk of change for his Parkinson's Research Foundation. And then, a year later, Tom started doing shows. So that's why you see Tom and Mike now. But this show in 2015 was Mike's very first official appearance at a show.
This was 2015, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
you see,
a great picture.
Mike on the end there next to Chris and Leah and Claudia, who played Jennifer. James Tolkien, who's just a sweetheart, wonderful. The man has incredible stories of his career. Harry, Don, Mark McClure played Dave McFly.
Is James Tolkien still with us? Is he?
Yes, he is.
That's unbelievable.
Did James just turn 90?
Wow.
I mean, he's still doing those.
He looks terrific. He looks terrific in that picture. He looks terrific.
He is terrific. Very vital. Plays golf as much as he can.
Jesus, Harry Waters Jr. looks like, because he was on an audio only interview when I had him. He looks like 1985 was yesterday.
Yeah, he's got that portrait up in the attic. He's keeping him young. Ricky Dean Logan there with the hoverboard. He was part of Griff's gang. Okay. And Frances Lee McCain, who played Stella Baines, Leah's character, Lorraine's mom.
Yeah. Oh,
and not pictured is Andrew Probert, who was on the design team of the DeLorean Time Machine. He had come as a guest to this show, but didn't make it on stage. So when I was my turn to speak, I was like, and there's a 12th member of the cast and crew here, and got Andrew to get some credit, which was nice. He also worked designing the spaceships for the first Star Trek movie and Next Generation.
So it's a couple silly questions for you, and thank you for all this time. What would you put on your 4-second pizza?
Mushrooms, olives, sausage.
That's not bad. Were you a prop?
I've got it here.
Get out.
Oh, wait a minute. No, this is pepperoni green pepper. I'm not going to eat this. My hydrometer is not working very well right now either. But
so are you?
Yeah, if people out there, your guests, your viewers want a signed Pizza Hut foil or one of these fun photographs that I have from like Twilight Zone movie or Back to the Future 2 or as Mark Twain in that TV movie I did for PBS. Anyway, just write me through jeffreyweissman.com or I'll send you my social links, my networks, and you can reach me through those, I think.
So you clearly documented your journey with pictures, which I think is so cool, and videos. Have you ever been a props guy? Have you ever taken a prop here or there, or is that frowned upon?
I don't have the sticky fingers that a lot of people have had.
Yeah.
During production, someone drove off one of the flying cars off the lot.
Get out of here.
I don't know if it's ever turned up.
I told you they brought back the DeLorean, and it's selling now new for $250,000. Not a vintage one. They're
a brand new
DeLorean. They're starting in production again. That is insane. $250,000 for a car with a horrible reliability record. They look cool as hell.
Well, I have my own DeLorean here. There's a picture of it.
Oh, let's see this. Oh, Jesus. With the monster truck tires, how cool is that? That is very cool. I think I would pass out if I saw that with excitement. I think I would pass out if I saw that. Oh my gosh. So is there anything that you wanted to promote? And I got to say, when you look back on your career, Jeffrey, when you look back on Back to the Future, is there a scene that you think about that you're involved in? Not so. You know what? I'm going to ask this in a two-prong way, and we'll end with this. What is your favorite scene that you're involved in, and then what's your favorite scene overall that may or may not involve you?
Well, I have actually several favorite moments in the first film. Obviously, whenever Leah is being her giddy, horny little self, and she's got Calvin in her bedroom or in the car, and her realization and that transition, really lovely stuff. Of course, when Marty gets his power back and is saving his family, those are fantastic moments. Scenes that I'm in, recreating the kiss and recreating the fight with Biff. Those are lovely moments that I'm proud to be a part of. It's too bad I'm way in the background or obscured or what have you, but it's the way it is. Love being in the future stuff. It was very exciting. The art direction was so detailed and so magnificent. A lot of the things that were created for those scenes never made it to screen. And
Wow.
I know there was a tour of all those props and such in Japan. I don't even know if they all made it back. There's a lot of great stuff. The people that clamor for a part 4 or remake, I recommend going to see the musical. The musical is a lot of fun.
Oh, you liked it? Okay.
I
Good.
did. It was wonderful.
Good.
It was wonderful.
Good.
Think that you will not be disappointed, especially if you're a Back to the Future fan.
Jeffrey, the last thing, I think the secret sauce to this is that it's so rewatchable. Like I get the same feelings I did in '85 as I do now. Sometimes with those '80s movies or '90s movies, you put it in, it's like, boy, does this thing look dated? Maybe I liked it because I was a kid, but man, is it rewatchable? All of them, 1, 2, and 3. Oh, whoa!
So this was cut footage from the Back to the Future documentary making of.
Whoa!
And just to show you, 4 hours a day to get into makeup. These are the wonderful staff we had. Nancy Vasta, Sonny Berman working on me. Leah's in the next chair being worked on by Mike Mills and Kenny Myers, or Marvin Westmore. And once again, for us to be on set by 9 in the morning, we had to be in the makeup chair at 4 in the morning. And after a couple hours of application of the prosthetics appliances, we'd get a little short break for a breakfast burrito and then come back in and get painted and the wig applied and all that.
Is that it's got to be difficult to eat in that? I mean, does it have weight to it, the mat, or does it constrict your face a lot?
It's somewhat constricting. You can't scratch if you have an itch. You got to tap it. They don't want you to eat because the edges crack in the mouth, and there's always repairs that have to go on after the eating lunch breaks or dinner breaks.
This is so cool. Oh my God. Look at that. Oh my God. How cool is that? Oh my gosh. Oh my God, I have the chills, Jeffrey. Oh my God.
So you heard Zemeckis call Leah. That by that time I got him to stop saying Crispin, so then he just called Leah to start. And then you heard him call Kevin, who was Michael J. Fox's photo double, who was on stage, playing the guitar while Mike was probably, on the catwalk upstairs, or, Kevin, who's quite the ringer for Mike, and he, would either switch when they were playing Marty, when they needed Marty in this same shot. But then again, we worked with this VistaGlide Panavision camera that the Tondro program Dolly, state-of-the-art stuff. This camera could splice the film in the middle inside. So the actors, Tom or Mike, could play multiple characters in the same scene. Very technically challenging, cutting edge at the time. And all this, the question of the morality, integrity for the licensing of the likeness has come up again with the advent of AI, with the SAG strike that hopefully has just ended. It's the same type of thing. People want to get away with whatever they can get away with. And if they're not going to negotiate using an actor's likeness for reuse in perpetuity, that seems a little immoral.
Yeah. You're right. And this will be my last question. I keep saying it to you like for over an hour. So when you're getting ready for the Enchantment Under the Sea dance and the recreating it, listen, I get you're an actor. I get you're a pro. Are there any nerves there? Are there any? Because you've already seen at that point how big the first one was, right? So are there nerves or do you? I mean, that's a huge moment. I can't believe there's a.
Well, yeah, but you realize I've been working since I was a kid to be an actor and to do, a great show like this. So naturally, there are nerves and nervousness and all sorts of distraction and lack of sleep and all these different things. But you have to stay relaxed. You have to stay centered, deepen your breath. That's part of your actor training, is to stretch, warm up, and relax and concentrate. You let things distract you, and it's not going to feel natural unless the character is that way. So yes, it's very exciting. Like I said, I often had to pinch myself that I was actually there. I still do. And I'm thankful for the gift of being a part of the trilogy and being appreciated by the fans around the world. It thrills me, and I love sharing the stories, even the rough stuff. I think a lot of actors will learn to protect themselves. A lot of producers will learn not to scar or violate, boundaries, and will keep celebrating these films.
Jeffrey, I thank you. The 12-year-old me thanks you, and you're a big part of my childhood, and I really appreciate your work in Back to the Future, Pale Rider, and a zillion other things. So thank you, Jeffrey,
Thank
for
you,
this.
Derek. Yeah, have me back on. We'll talk about all my stage work and Saved by the Bell and Scarecrow Mrs. King and Diagnosis Murder and all these other things I've done too.
100%. You're a good soul. Thank you for this, Jeffrey. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Have a great
I'll
night.
see you in the future.
Yes.